Hello eventers, this is Coach Reba. Together with assistant coach and rider Stéphane Fournier, we run Stewart Sport Horses. We also organize the Explore Eventing Series, which is new in 2021, a series of fun and educational competitions for people to get out and try eventing. One of the most confusing parts of eventing and cross-country riding is time faults. How do they work and how do we avoid them? Today, we prepared a short tutorial that covers the basics of how to avoid time faults on the cross-country course. People do find cross-country timing confusing. At Explore Eventing, we encourage riders to focus on jumping the jumps, being safe, and having fun. However, at all levels of eventing, time helps decide who comes out on top. So if you're loving eventing and you're on your way to mastering the jumps at your level, it might be time to turn your attention to the clock to help you move up the leaderboard. But it's not the fastest time wins. How does it all work? Well, your course map really is your guide, both to the jumps that you're going to jump and to the speed that you should travel. So in a horse trial, there are 3 important numbers to be aware of, and they're all going to be on your course map. So whether that course map is going to be a physical piece of paper that comes in your rider packet, sent to you in an email, or published online somewhere, make sure that you have a copy. The first thing I want you to look for on that course map is the course length in meters. That's the distance you're going to travel from the start box to the finish flags. The next is the optimum time. That is the time that you are aiming for. It is the most important time on this piece of paper. If you go the correct speed for your level, you'll come in exactly at optimum time. That's because it's calculated based on your optimum speed for your level in meters per minute and the distance of the course in meters. So the result should be an optimum time listed in minutes and seconds. If you go slower than the optimum time, you'll get 0.4 penalty points per second above the optimum time. So if you're in entry level and your optimum speed says 350 meters per minute, and you travel the whole course at that speed, you'll come in exactly at optimum time. The last thing I want you to look for on that course map is speed fault time. It looks exactly the same as your optimum time, except it will be labeled speed fault time, and it's calculated exactly the same, except they use the faster speed of a level above you. So my earlier example of entry level, if your optimum time is based on your optimum speed of 350 meters per minute, your speed fault time will be calculated using the speed of pre-training at 400 meters per minute, resulting in a faster time. Going faster than the speed fault time results in 1 penalty point per second under the speed fault time. Now, speed fault times are only used at training level and below. You'll notice that going too fast is penalized more heavily than going too slow. And that's to discourage dangerous riding. It's important to take your time and get it right? Safe and fun first. And so finally, there will be a window. So there's a gap between the speed fault time and the optimum time. And in that gap, you get no time faults. And that's what you really want to come in at. So here I have an example to talk through. This is a course map for the pre-entry level from the Explore Eventing event number 3, which was a derby at Peekaboo Corner eventing facility. So you will notice that the last 3 jumps on course were actually stadium jumps. That's okay. The timing and everything works exactly the same as if it was a full cross-country course. So the first thing I asked you to look at when you picked up your course map were those 3 things from the last slide. The first was the course length. It's here at 1,400 meters. The next was the optimum time. That's the time you are aiming for based on the optimum speed for your level. It was very convenient because the example here today was exactly 4 minutes. And the last thing I asked you to look for was the speed fault time. And that's the one that is your limit on how fast you can go. So 3 minutes and 30 seconds is the fastest you can go at this level on this course without getting time faults. And it was based on the next fastest optimum speed, which was 400 meters per minute at pre-training level, actually. Right? I also want to stress that timing is only one part of the puzzle. Your coach is really the one who's going to walk with you will you see which jumps to jump, how to jump them, what your path is going to look like, what the ground is doing, right? They are a key part of your performance on the day. So make sure that your coach is the one guiding you. This is just meant as a reference. So how do you know if you're going the right speed? I get this question a lot from students or people sort of scratching their head, looking at their scores. You know, it says they went way too fast and that's why they have time faults. And they just sort of shrug. No one really knows. I don't know, I didn't feel too fast, right? And so how do you know? And the best way to know if you're traveling the right speed is by feel, and that takes practice. Practice, 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 practice. You might want to discuss that with your coach. Maybe they have some tips and tricks for going the right speed and knowing it, but we do have a few recommendations. So go out and buy a distance wheel. It looks like this in the picture. It's nothing fancy. It's nice if you can get it in meters because our speeds and distances for eventing are on the metric system. So preferably not in feet, but we all have a phone and can convert things as needed. Right? And then you're going to take this wheel and you're going to measure out the distance that you at your level and your speed are expected to travel in 1 minute. So for the pre-entry division that we discussed on the map, that was 350 meters per minute. You would take your wheel, you would measure out 350 meters, and you can mark that with cones or standards or some things that tells you that that's the path I have to travel to do 350 meters. And then you get on your horse and you practice doing that loop until you can do that in 1 minute. And you'll get really good at it. You'll either have someone timing you or you'll be timing yourself with a stopwatch or just a digital watch on your wrist. And you'll know what it feels like to do that in 1 minute. And that means you're traveling at 350 meters per minute. You'll also get a sense for what's too slow. Oh gosh, I'm not going to make it in time. What's too fast? Oh, I better steady, right? Until you have ingrained in you, okay, this feels like pre-entry, 350 meters per minute, and go. Then when you're on course, it should feel exactly the same, right? And that's a skill, so it takes lots of practice and lots of feedback. And in this exercise, the feedback is the timer, right? So you're every loop, you'll say, okay, that was too fast, that was too slow, that was just right. And you want to be able to get just right every time to master that speed for your level. This slide is just quick tips on where to buy things when it comes to timing and cross country. So I discussed that distance wheel. Preferably we'd like for it to be in meters for ease of use. You can get those on Amazon, most hardware stores. I don't know what people in the real world use it for, but I guess people who build things are also measuring things by wheels. As for a watch, you have a few options if you're ready to wear a watch cross country. So the fancy option is the Optimum Time Eventing Watch, and that can run you about $150. You can get them at tack stores, online, probably on Amazon as well. They come in lots of fun colors, so if you do want to match your cross-country colors, that's kind of neat. And then they also have a setting that you can set them to beep every minute. I don't discuss that method of keeping time in this tutorial. I find it more helpful at the upper levels, but certainly if you really wanted to do a checking your watch and your time every minute on course, it would beep to help you if that's something that you'd like to explore. My favorite of the watches is this Champion Jumbo stopwatch. It goes on your wrist. It looks almost identical to this eventing watch. It's a little more boring. It's just black, but it works great. It does not beep every minute, but it does do the job. And you can get that on Amazon for about $40. However, you don't need either one of those fancy giant watches. You could just go to Walmart and buy a digital watch with big numbers that you can see. You don't have to bring your hand right up to your face when you're checking your watch on the horse. You should be able to just turn your wrist and glance down to see the numbers. But any digital watch with big numbers will work. They all have a stopwatch function, and they'll do the job. So now we're going to talk about how you're going to use that watch on course. So I talked about feel and how important that is, and I still really stress that you should know what the right pace feels like. But it's also good practice to check your time on course. Make sure you're traveling at the right pace. And so, you know, at home, you might really be good at knowing 350 meters per minute, but at the show, you're on course, you have jumps to jump, there's a lot of distractions. This is your fail safe. You check your watch. So if you have a watch, you start it just before you leave the start box as you're being counted down. I like to hit it at sort of 2 or 1 so that it's almost identical to the actual timer that's timing me on course. And then at the low levels, we recommend markers at the halfway point and then also at the 3/4 point. Lots of riders write those numbers on their arm so that they don't have to remember. This is assistant coach Stefan in the picture, so that's our champion watch that we use for timing. And then you can see he used my pre-entry example. So he has optimum time 4 minutes circled. That's his big important target that he's trying to hit. 2 minutes is his halfway mark. So when he's halfway through the course, he should be at 2 minutes. And then the 3 minutes here is his 3/4 time. So when he's at his 3/4 way through the course, he should be at 3 minutes, right? So that should give him some feedback. If he's at 2 minutes at the wrong time, he knows he has to make a change. However, the markers where I say, oh, he's at his halfway marker, there are no markers on that course map that we looked at. So we got to talk a little bit about how do you determine where you're supposed to check your watch and how do you know if you're on track? Oh, and here I am just breaking down again what these numbers are on his arm. And you don't have to do it like this. This is just a way that we find easy to remember. Maybe you can hold all those times in your head. You don't have to write on your arm at all. But his optimum time was 4 minutes. His halfway time is 2 minutes. And his 3/4 time is 3 minutes. All right, so now we're going to talk about those markers. Now, saying at your halfway marker, you have to check your watch. At your 3/4 marker, you have to check your watch. And the most accurate way to determine where those markers are going to be, which is spots where you're going to check on your watch, is to use that distance wheel that you bought for practicing at home. So the course distance is already on the map. So if you wheel the course as you walk it, so you're walking the course, looking at your jumps, and you have the wheel with you, that measuring as you go, you should be able to keep an eye on that and see when you're approaching the halfway point. So, you know, for our 1,400 meter course at 700 meters, we're halfway through the distance of the course. And so you just keep glancing down at that wheel. Okay, we're at 650. My halfway mark is coming right up. And the same when you are looking for the 3/4 mark. If you don't have access to a wheel, some riders have found success in just setting those markers based on guesses. They just estimate, well, that seems like kind of halfway through the course, and then that seems like 3/4. And it's not a very accurate method, but it's better than nothing. So if you don't have a wheel and that's the way you have to do it, then that's okay. And it'll still give you a rough idea. I think I'm somewhere halfway around the course. Am I about halfway through my time? And so when you're deciding where your marker is or when you've reached a marker, based on either your guess or based on the wheel, stop and look around because you're going to need a landmark, right? You're not going to remember, you're not going to have the wheel with you when you're on course and you're not going to remember exactly where it was. So you need to look around and say, okay, when I pass that tree, there's a big white tree, I'm going to check my watch. I like to use jumps, so halfway between jump 6 and 7 is my halfway point. But landmarks will also work, so especially if you have memorable things on course. Okay, I'm going to have to ride down that big hill, and right before I do, I'm going to check my watch because that's right at my 3/4 mark. Right, so make sure, and you can draw it on your map. I mean, if you have a physical copy of your map, you can draw, that's my halfway. And then when you're going through your course, before you head out, you'll say, okay, I'm going to jump 6. Oh, yeah, then I got to check my watch, okay, and then I'm going to jump 7, right? So it becomes part of your course to check your watch. So together, those times that we discussed earlier and your markers give you a lot of information to guide you when it comes to your time and your pace on course. They can tell you if you're going too fast, too slow, or if you're right on track to come home clear with no time faults. So for our example, you're doing your pre-training course at 350 meters per minute and your optimum time is 4 minutes. When you get to the halfway point, you know that you should be right at or about 2 minutes. So if I'm 5, maybe even 10 seconds on either side of my marker, typically I think I'm doing okay. Keeping in mind, I know that there's a window at the end. I don't have to come in at exactly optimum time. There's that gap between speed fall time and optimum time. So it doesn't have to be completely exact. However, if I come to my halfway point and I'm at 1 minute and 40 seconds, which is 20 seconds earlier than I was meant to arrive at my halfway point, then I know I'm going too fast. And the same is true if I get there and it's 2:15 or 2:20. Okay, I'm going a little too slow, right? But the reason that we're checking this watch halfway through the course is that we still have time to adjust and correct our speed and still come in at the right time. Slow down. I do find myself saying this to some riders at these levels, and the speeds are kind of slow, right? There's some speeds in our Explore Eventing series that are really just cantering around the course. So if you have in your mind that you're going to gallop around the cross-country course, that might not be suitable for your level, right? So speed magnifies mistakes. And at these levels, we are all going to make mistakes. So you want to be kind to yourself and kind to your horse and keep you both safe by going the correct speed. I did mention earlier that optimum speed is important. Courses are designed to be ridden at a certain speed. Okay, so if you're going too fast or you're going too slow, you can actually make your horse's job harder. And depending on the jumps or the terrain or the course design, you can increase risks. So you really need to discuss with your coach strategies for safety and success. Right? So a couple ways that you might be able to slow down on course. Number one is whoa. So just slow down. So sit up, half halt, as much as it takes to get your horse back to a slower pace. You could also circle. So when you circle on course, there are no penalties if you're not presented to a jump, right? So you can circle on cross country. It also eats up a bit of time. So if you think, oh, gee, I've gone way too fast and I'm going to arrive at the finish flags too quickly, you can circle. It also will give you a chance to get your horse's attention back, regain some control, get the rhythm. You know, sometimes they get a bit excited in cross country. Sometimes riders get a little excited cross country. And that circle can be your chance to take a breath, reset, and head back out at the correct pace. I do want to say a quick note about what's called willful delay. So there is a rule about willful delay that can earn you 15 penalty points. And that's if you've jumped the whole course and then you land from the final fence and you go, uh-oh, I've gone too fast. And then if you do something between the last fence and the finish flags to try to eat up time. So that would be like breaking to trot or doing a circle, just in the interest of avoiding time falls. That's not allowed. So in the interest of learning about pace, going the right speed, having a watch, you should be planning ahead. You should not be having to slow down and waste time between the last jump and the finish line. And if you do, you could get 15 penalty points, right? So plan ahead, go the right pace, do a circle for either control or just to sort of settle down and eat up some time, right? But do it early on course. In a perfect world, you go the correct speed the whole way around the course. Occasionally, I see people that really need to speed up. Right? They're consistently getting time faults for going too slow, and they really want to come in under optimum time with no time faults. And so going too slow can sometimes make your horse's job harder too. They're out there longer, so maybe someone completed the course in 3.5 minutes, but it took you 5 minutes. That can be a little bit harder for your horse. And so if you find that you're arriving at your markers later than expected, then consider just kicking on. Right? Even if you think, gee, it feels kind of like home. I thought I was going fast enough, but the watch says no. You got to get going, right? But at these levels, we really advise against drastic speed changes. So if you show up at your halfway point and you're way, way too slow, we do not want you to gallop like a crazy person for the rest of the course to try to make up for it. That's not appropriate, right? So you speed up your canter, your gallop a little bit, as long as it's still safe for you and your horse to do so. And you can also consider maybe there are places on course that you can save time. You know, I have half the course left. Maybe I can save some time and save some time faults or come in with no time faults at all. So some opportunities for that are big long stretches between jumps. That's a good time to gallop on typically. Right? Your horse might not be used to galloping at jumps, but you've got time. So get going. Get up off their back, give them a kick, go. If there are some path options, sometimes you can choose the shortest option and that'll save you some time. You just make sure that it's safe for you and your horse's skill level. And then sometimes you just have to accept that you got to master the jumps and the technical stuff first. Right? We mentioned that earlier. Safe and fun first. You got to jump the jumps. And then once you think you're mastering that, then you can work on the optimum speed. So there's no rush. So sometimes you look at your watch and go, oh, gee, I'm too slow and I don't think there's going to be any catching up. And that's okay. Right? Maybe that's not what it's about for you that day. So as always, consult with your coach about the best strategy for you and your horse, but also talk to them about your goals for the day. If your goal is, we've never been to this facility before and we've never jumped this type of jump and we just want to have a really confident round. And if that's a bit slow, then that's okay. Right? So plan ahead. What's important to you and your horse? All right, eventers, so you've got this. We're nearing the end here. So we've got a little bit of knowledge about the rules, how to use a watch, how to read the map, how to use the distance wheel. You've really got some skills now that you can cross the finish flags with no time faults. Work with your coach, create a strategy for cross-country day, know the appropriate speed for your level, and ideally you should know what it feels like too, not just the speed, but you know what it feels like to go the right speed. You want to figure out your halfway and your three-quarter markers on course. Again, whether that's guessing, making your best educated guess, or whether you're using the wheel. Really important to know where you're going to check your watch. And then remember to check your watch on course and see if you're arriving at those markers on time. Right? That gives you a lot of information. Too fast, too slow, what are you going to do next? Finally, make sure you aim for the optimum time, and you want to come in that fault-free window by traveling the correct speed and then adjusting your speed accordingly on course. Right? There's a little bit of wiggle room there, so don't think it has to be exact. You know, you've got this. And then lastly, here are your Stewart Sport Horses coaches. This is Stefan on the left and Reba on the right. Please reach out with any questions that you have about cross-country and timing and how it all works. We're really excited to have so much interest in eventing and the Explore Eventing series this year. So please don't let any uncertainty sort of keep you away. We're here to help. Reach out to us on any of those platforms.